I see me. Yeah, going live.
You're live. Now you
Hello,
can...
everybody. This is Rabbi Schaefer and Rabbi Schaefer. We hope to have a wonderful class today in which we work on self-improvement and helping our country and helping the world with our good deeds, with our prayers, and with our good thoughts, which are much more powerful than just local niceties. As we hope to learn in this class, we're going to discuss how we have much more power and control than we would ever imagine, especially if we use it for the right purpose. Hi, Mrs. Dickman. I'm going to put it on speaker, and we're trying an experiment to get the computer to behave better.
The Zoom.
It's my fault. I happen to kick the keyboard. That sounds funny, but somehow I managed to do that.
It's God's fault.
Last weekend, it has this strange narrator that tells us what we're doing when
even things we're not
Can
doing.
you hear me okay?
Yes,
Oh, that's good. All right, that's good. Okay. We're going to start shortly. We're just trying this experiment to see if it will give us relief. May I please
We're
help?
restarting the Zoom computer. It's telling me welcome. Come on. Please help us. It's coming back. There we go. Coming back.
We'll be able to start very soon.
All of a sudden, both computers are going so slow to get things done. Like if there was an intruder, a middle whatever, God forbid. I think I'm going to have to reconnect the into it. Let me see which one it is. I think it's this one. Oh my God, everything is going on turtle. At least it's going, right? Thank you, God. Come on. Okay. Okay. Okay, now that's done. Now let's go to here. Maybe on the other line, call Rabbi or Chaim and let them put your phone on speaker so you can start by phone until we get this going.
Mrs. Dickman's on the...
Right, but just tell her you're going to switch to the other line to let people know to call into the conference center.
Can he hear us, River Friend?
I don't think so. I don't know how he would if I don't have this open yet. Come on, what's taking you so long? Please, Father God, override any and all evil and help me to get this class going, Father. Now I got many instead of one. Ugh. Yeah, that's what I mean. Oh, maybe it's better to close down and reopen it. Unbelievable how still. There it is. We're getting somewhere, husband. And tell the YouTubers, excuse me, I know you were just sitting here. We're not trying to be rude.
We apologize, YouTubers. We're trying to get the computer to work
The other
properly.
computer for Zoom.
The other one, the Zoom computer. And we have people waiting patiently on that system as well. And we hope to start very soon.
Tell them what the class is going to be about today.
I mentioned it already. Yeah.
Well, maybe just give a few extra hints to what you're going to start teaching them.
We're studying about how our prayers can be used as defense weapons, not only for ourselves, but for the world that we live in. And that's part of their design.
Please look at you. There it is. What does that say? They're in the meeting. Don't give me this baloney. Telling you to sign. Oh, here we go. There we are. Now, let's do this. First, we're waiting for the what? Don't move nothing. There.
Something
Hi,
like that,
Rabbi.
yeah.
Thank you for joining us.
There.
We're just about to begin, didn't we, Sam?
He's a nice guy. Nice.
Good.
Sorry
Good,
for
That's
the
good, yeah.
Yeah, I saw him at,
birthday.
Say about 45 minutes. Yeah.
oh, he's 45 minutes from you? He's not, he does, I thought he was at Rabbi Groner's, no?
No, he's his own. He's a place called Lake Norman.
Okay. I think we did it.
Ah,
I think
Thank
the
God,
restart
thank
fixed it.
Thank God,
Yeah.
thank God, bro.
Yeah.
Good, Good, Hashem, Rebbetzin. That's
Okay,
wonderful.
Shem, thank God, thank God. And I'll try to keep away from keyboards. Okay,
Okay. Now,
we're on page 102 in this mimer of the previous Rebbe. It's not the Boshe Lagani mimer that's being studied a lot today, but it is a wonderful mimer with basic information for our daily life and daily Judaism and daily living as Noachites as well. At any
everybody
rate,
can hear you, right?
can you hear me, Mrs. Dickman? I think you said, Mr. Can you hear me? I know you're on mute. Oh, okay. All right, let me know. Good. I think we got things, thank God, with God's miraculous help. And my wonderful,
Right.
miraculous wife had the idea to try to get started again. Tshuva. Isn't it the idea of repentance, right? To start all over again from the beginning. So anyways, we're on page 102, and we have a set of weaponry in the prayers themselves that are there to help us not only defend ourselves from our own evil, our own wickedness, which we don't like to admit that we have any, but believe in this times that it comes out. I'll try to bring a couple of simple examples, and if you give examples too, I'm always very grateful as well. One of the weapons that's not mentioned in this particular page was discussed in length in an earlier page, and that was the keshes. We spoke about the Shemona Esrei being bakoshos, being requests of God. Also, the word keshes means a bow, like the bow and arrow. And the advantage of the bow, the reason I'm mentioning it now because it's not on this page reviewed, but it's so important. And Mrs. Dickman has been so kind to bring this subject up again, and the Rebbe bring it up again himself, these different tools that we have. I wanted to bring out a certain point right now that we don't think of ourselves as wicked, thank God. In fact, it mentions we're not supposed to consider ourselves wicked, but we should consider ourselves, as the Tanya explains, people who have some likeness to wickedness. Why? Because we have an evil inclination, and it pops up from time to time in all kinds of sneaky ways, so sneaky we don't even notice it at first until we can catch it. Uh, my picture is still doing crazy things, but we don't know what to do about it. Yeah. You said it was the internet, though? The internet does it on your phone?
No.
Yeah. Well, right now it has my head shaking.
It's that program.
It's a program. All right. I'm going to continue teaching, though, I think, because we had some delays today. So,
Rabbi Schaefer.
yes, go right ahead. Yes.
Yeah, just as a recommendation, I don't know if this is going to be possible for you, but after today's class,
Yeah.
There's a way to go into your computer and you put add and remove programs.
Yeah.
You can uninstall. You can't just delete the icon on your computer. You have to go to the thing that says uninstall the program of Zoom,
Yeah.
and then reinstall
wow.
a fresh copy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that might clear up this video glitch. And that's what I did on my end, but I think it has to be on your computer to do that possibly.
Uninstall and reinstall. Okay.
Right. So
basically,
what you uninstall on your computer, then you open up your internet and you say download Zoom to a PC, to a Windows PC, and then you download the program, Zoom program, to your computer, and then you install it on your computer brand new. It's kind of just a refresh, And
it worked for you. Okay.
Well, no, I'm saying it wasn't. I did it on my end because I thought it was my computer because I kept on seeing my image in it. But now I'm seeing Avi and Chaim pop up in your screen as well.
Yeah.
So it's not our computers. I think it has something to do with the connection between your camera and the Zoom program. And I don't know what that is exactly.
That's strange too. Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's loose. The wire is loose or something. Maybe we could check that.
Only happening on the
Yeah.
Zoom.
Yeah.
But it definitely has something to do with the Zoom channel because other participants are showing up in your screen.
Yeah.
Our other boxes are showing up in your video.
Okay.
Box.
I want to get going with the lesson because
I
don't want to lose people who joined
Maybe
us.
you can call the Zoom people, Rabbi Frank. Tell them what's going on and tell them that only the host it's happening to. See if they can.
Oh, wait a minute. Let me ask you something. It just.
Yeah.
Avi and Chaim, are you seeing Rabbi's box going into multicolors?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're seeing it too, Rabbi said.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's going right now.
But it's only on Zoom. We don't have that with anything else on that computer.
Right. It's only on Zoom, so it's somehow to do with your Zoom computer, your Zoom program, and your camera, and I don't know what that is exactly. But I think a refresh after today would be helpful.
This camera's inside the computer, isn't it? It's not separate.
Right. That's what I'm saying. So it shouldn't. Yeah.
Okay, so it's not a loose connection on the outside. Okay, I'm going to try to continue, and thank you for all of you for your patience. We have to pray to the Almighty that He stop the Satan, the interfering angel who's trying to stop us from learning about how to fight him. Maybe that's why he's starting up so much, because we're trying to learn how to fight him. Our different prayers are designed not just to praise God, not just to ask for our immediate needs, but to give us a defense weaponry against the enemy who's trying to do us in. So I was started to mention we're going to talk about these different weapons that we have that were being reviewed. One of them is not reviewed because it was discussed in great detail before. Can you still hear me, Mrs. Dickman, I hope? I just want to make sure.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Yes, I can.
One was the bow, like the bow and arrow. And of course, even in the time of the previous Rebbe, they had more sophisticated weaponry than a bow and arrow, than a spear that we're learning about, or a sword. They had already, believe me, very. He was living, of course, in the past century. They had obviously very, very much more advanced weaponry. He's using the weapons that are mentioned in the Talmud, in the Mishnah and Talmud, because they represent all weaponry, all different types of defense mechanisms or offense mechanisms, different ways either to make war or to defend oneself against war. And therefore, our modern day versions of them do similar things, just in very sophisticated ways. So I wanted us to be aware of the fact of how powerful our prayers actually are, that they not only provide defense for ourselves against our inner evil, but they bring good and fight the evil in the world. And that's very, very important. Before I even read in the text again, as I often do, I try to give us something that will make the text meaningful for us. We're going to be learning again about ancient weaponry and how the different prayers represent different weapons. Those same prayers have the most sophisticated electronics too. Any electronics, any kind of inventions that man has made, unfortunately, to bring about destruction. The prayers obviously bring about great construction and healing and goodness, of course. But I want us to know, whenever we read in the Torah about, oh, that's from ancient times, that's from long ago, does it really apply to them? Absolutely, more than ever. And that by using these, we might call them crude implements, crude weaponry, old-fashioned things or systems or whatever, all these things are just simply representative. They're representative of the universal, incredible power of the Almighty to defend us against evil, and we need defense against the evil that's within ourselves. So I probably the third or fourth time now I'm mentioning the bow and arrow, which is distinguished from perhaps some of these other weapons that are mentioned on the page, because the bow and arrow enables a person who is far away to inflict, God forbid, injury or worse upon someone who is far away. So that was explained by the previous Rebbe on that earlier page. We're not talking about distances, how many hundreds of miles or thousands of miles, or missiles that these guided missiles, etc., that can go thousands of miles, God forbid, as we are hearing about today to this very day. The idea is there's a concept that there's evil that we think is far away from us. We don't want to think of ourselves as wicked people. We don't want to think of ourselves as evil people. And therefore, we kind of smear over and shove under the rug, put the dust under the rug, those things that need improvement. So let me give some examples, and maybe you'll be willing to share yours as well. It doesn't have to be a personal example, God forbid. We're not looking to embarrass anybody or to say, why did he say that? Why did she say that? It must be because. That's garbage. That's garbage from the evil inclination. Well, let's take an example. Let's take a very simple example. Someone calls you up and says, you want me to wait for you, Rebbe Frame? You okay? I can wait.
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
No, fine.
You're waiting for me. I'll wait for you.
No, my daughter just needed some.
Oh, okay.
paper.
Oh, I'm glad she's home. Yeah, I'm glad she has some time.
Yeah, Book Hashem. She comes through Shabbos. Yeah.
Wonderful. That's terrific. And please send our fond regards
Yeah.
from
I
the
sure
Rebbe
will.
as
Thank
well. Thank you.
Book Hashem. Thank you.
Someone, just for fun, you give your own examples as well. Somebody gives you a call. Would you mind giving me a ride at such and such a time or whatever? And you're free. And you're free, actually. You really could do it and everything. But all of a sudden, there's a little reluctance inside there, whatever. You know, maybe I'm going to be busy. I have something to do at that time, or something comes up, whatever. That's typical of evil. That's actually evil inside us. We're not wicked. That doesn't mean we're evil people or wicked people. But there is that selfish voice in us. May I borrow your salad bowl for the year? It's a salad bowl. It's been sitting in your closet since you've been married. But now that somebody asked for, I might need it for Shabbat, I might need it for this or for dinner, etc., etc. As soon as you detect that, as soon as you hear that or feel that, and please give me your own examples as well, if you'd be so kind. As soon as that goes into play, that's exactly what we want to focus on. That's what you need the bow and arrow for. Because You say to yourself, and even somebody else would excuse you, saying, "Well, maybe you will be busy. Maybe you won't be. Maybe it won't be convenient, or whatever. Or maybe it's going to take up more time than you have." All the different excuses that the evil inclination will come up with. That's where you need the keshes. We said the Shemona Esrei, the bow, to shoot an arrow at what seems to be an evil. It's not me. I'm not evil. That's no bad. That has nothing to do with me. No, it's way off. That's where you need the arrow with the bow or the guided missile today, whatever it may happen to be. And we're soon going to have some example of Patriot missiles that are designed to shoot down the trouble. That's coming up as well. So the previous Rebbe, using the weaponry that's mentioned in Shabbos. In fact, I'll just review very quickly. It was listed in the Mishnah in Shabbos to tell us that even though these weapons sometimes appear to be ornamental, the truth of the matter is they are not, and we're not supposed to wear them even for ornamental purposes of Shabbos. At any rate, look at the depth of the Torah. The Mishnah wasn't speaking about shooting the bow or throwing the spear. It was talking simply about that sometimes armaments are looked upon as an ornament, an adornment for the body. Like a soldier, you take a picture of the soldier, you'll have his rifle on his shoulder, things of that nature, etc. Or the set of knives, or I don't know, whatever it might happen to be. At any rate, look at the depth of the Torah. It's not even talking about prayer. It's not even talking about Shabbos labors. It's mentioning about what a person may wear, what they wear on Shabbos. Some things are considered ornamental, some things are considered really unnecessary load, etc. There's a number of chapters in Gemara Shabbos there. Look what the previous Rebbe found there. Look what he found hidden in those words. Why is the Torah? It's talking about Shabbos, rest, and everything. What are we talking about weaponry for? It's teaching us that weaponry has to be used at the proper time. Just as it's used to defend the Jewish people as a whole against enemies, it's also weaponry against the evil, not on the outside, but in ourselves, that seems to show up sometimes in such a tricky way. That's far off. That's not me. No, you need your bow and arrow to shoot at a distance, and realize that this is something that has to be corrected. That was just one example that I came up with. If you have other examples, situations, let's say perhaps that seem to be fairly innocent and not really evil whatsoever, but really behind them is a trick of the evil connection. So we're on page 102, and we were learning about how the yes.
What did you say? You're not allowed to wear even on Shabbos? What are you not
There's a
allowed to
list
wear
of
even on Shabbos?
weapons. There's a list of weapons in the volume of the Mishnah and Talmud that deals with weapons that are not for warfare. It's not talking about that. That's discussed also if there's an emergency and one has to defend oneself, of course, in Shabbos, that we can use them. It's not talking about using them at all. It's talking about simply using them as an ornament. Because as I mentioned, that in fact you see pictures of soldiers in the army. You usually see them in full uniform and with their rifle on too. Actually, I see them as they're ready for combat, etc. God forbid they should have to use that, etc. It's a picture. What are you wearing the rifle for? What do you need the rifle on there for? Okay, the uniform is your dress, but what do you need the rifle there for? So this is like an ornament, like an armament. Years ago, it would be the sword, right? You see old paintings, you see people with a sword. Even if they're not a soldier, it was like an ornament, an ornamental weapon. God forbid it could be used if needed too, but it's just there as an ornament. So in what I was trying to bring out, and it's worth repeating too, to everyone, is that even though something is ornamental in that volume of the Talmud, there are so many deeper secret meanings in the Torah that the Torah is saying these weapons aren't just ornamental. They're indicative of our prayers, of all things, our prayers in the Shema Yisrael that act as weaponry, as those different types of weapons Each one has a certain property. You have the pistol, you have the gun, you have the rifle, you have the missile, right? You have the, what's that thing that, it's a plane that, drone, that's the word. You get your drones, which are also deadly, God forbid, too. All these different things are indicated in the Torah that our prayers defend ourselves against that junk, that we shouldn't fall prey to it. And also, as we explained, that it can affect the world at large. I want to read a little bit. Are we okay, Mrs. Dixman? Does that make it clearer? Are we good?
It makes it clear, but you were saying we shouldn't wear it even on Shabbos. There's nothing that we.
That's right. Well, you and I wouldn't wear it anyway, but let's say it's a soldier. A soldier might wear it as an ornament. Like we mentioned the sword used to be worn as an ornament. So we don't wear it when we're going to go outside. I think that's what I was unclear about. When you're going out from the house, you wouldn't wear it in the house either, but you're going out from the house in the street, and let's say you're a soldier. And it's not necessary, of course. We're not talking about where you need to defend yourself, God forbid. Just wearing it as part of your uniform. That wouldn't be allowed on Shabbos because it's not needed to be worn on Shabbos, and therefore it becomes a burden. This is interesting that a garment or ornament may be something forbidden to be worn in the street on Shabbos, not because it's dangerous in any way or whatever. Some certain things are considered like unnecessary and really not needed, or the way they're being worn, etc. Extra things, certain extra things, and that's considered a burden on Shabbos. Just as we can't carry in our hand. I see what the problem is. Thank you very much, Mr. Dick, because I didn't make it clear at all. It's my fault. Just as we don't carry things in our hand in the street unless you have an Erev on Shabbos, likewise, certain things that we wear are considered like unnecessary, and they're considered a burden also on Shabbos. And, there's a whole chapter on that. There's a whole chapter on things like that. There's also the certain things that a woman, we don't do it today, a woman used to take off. Hey, look at my necklace and everything. Look, my husband just bought this for me. She's walking along in the street there and carrying on Shabbos, So the Rabbi said, don't even wear it, period, because you're going to be tempted to show it off. So we don't do that today. There's a lot of things that have been adjusted for this today. But thank you very much, because that really clarifies that. I think many people didn't have no idea what's wrong with just wearing something like that on Shabbos. It's not a question of muksa, Okay, thank you very much for your help. You're more than welcome. In the meantime, let's read about some of these. Then I want to go back on a certain point that I started to make. Let's take a look at 102, line 31. The Chiyas Avoda. When you begin the prayers, that's the Hodu, the Ashrei, Hallelujahs, many prayers in which we praise God. It looks like it's us. We say nice things to God. We say how everything in creation recognizes Him. That's all good stuff, etc. It has another function. Just like you would think the rifle is doing nothing on the soldier's shoulder, the Chiyas Avoda Lazama Aritzim. We're able to cut off the tyrants. There's forces of evil that are looking to make trouble in the world. When a president or officials, politicians, and others, some people don't like when I speak about politics, but we live in a real world today. That's why I have to bring it in. We have to know what we're dealing with today. These crazy ideas, and believe me, they're crazy. Like almost every day, you must hear something in the news. What? All kinds of idiotic ideas of how to teach children, or to change the educational system, or to this is no good, and that's outlaw this, outlaw that. Outlaw gas stoves, outlaw everything. Let's outlaw everything, etc.
2 cents.
Yes. Rabbi wants to say something.
If we look, most of the stuff they're trying to change is to take things that were biblical to anti-biblical. I'm finished.
Thank you, and that is very true. Very, very true. We thank God that we have a Torah. We thank God we have a Torah, and the Torah tells us what's right and what isn't right. Oh, we're such smart human beings. Look at how we mess ourselves up and the world as well. That's how smart we are. We need the Almighty to guide us and show us what is right, what is not right, and how to judge. So anyways, the beginning of the services, we started this last week, Lazame Oritzim, that the words of the prayers at the beginning of the Siddur, which are words of praise, Zemer means music. Zemer means singing praise. But it also means to prune, to cut out weeds, cut out harmful growth. Lazamer aritzim, hubib suki de Zemer. We do that with these earlier prayers. Once again, these are prayers. They act as weaponry as well. Protect ourselves. Who are Sayaf, that's the sword. O Kriyash Roma, who mentioned that the Kriyashma, the recital of the Shema, is not just declaring God's unity, it's actually a weapon to protect us, acting as a spear. Moshe Ayidei Haromach Notlim Esachayas Lagamri, a spear is a very effective weapon. Yes, these are old-fashioned weapons. All the modern weapons do the same things, unfortunately to many more at the same time, and maybe more effectively and quickly, etc. The idea is the same. This weapon we have in our prayers is universal, and it's much more powerful, as I hope to mention in a moment, than anything human beings can come up with. We have to work on ourselves and work on the world around us. And our prayers in Shema Yisrael do just that. And we see that. We see that people are coming out of the woodwork and starting to fight against the craziness. Moke likewise is in line 33.
Thank God.
Yeah. Baruch Hashem, Ayidei Kriya Shema, through the recital of the Shema, Mavatlim, Machrim, and Misaram, Mikol V'kol. Shema Yisrael is so powerful, it can completely destroy evil with it. That's a very powerful weapon, but we have to realize. But not Shema Yisrael, to see how fast you can say the 248 words. Get it over with, get it done, because the top for Shema is close and everything. Finish it out, get it all done. I don't think you could aim a weapon like that. I don't think you could use a weapon effectively. Fumble, jumble it, fumble it, whatever. Just push, pull the trigger, etc., etc. Very dangerous, isn't it, right? So the Shema Yisrael, we look upon it only from the standpoint of getting close to God, putting ourselves. The Rebbe is a wonderful expression, pledging allegiance to God. It's a very wondrous way to describe Shema Yisrael. I'm still wondering about how amazing it is. It's a wonderful thing to say, how we recognize that there's none other besides the Almighty. And we do this as one of the 613 commandments. We do this to connect ourselves with the Almighty. Would you and I think that it has anything to do with destroying evil? Look what he says. Mikol v'kol. It's a weapon against evil. It's a very powerful thing if used carefully. Aim carefully, right? Aim it carefully and use it properly. Okay. So this is very wondrous. This is Rami Kovakov. Shema Yisrael is so capable, so powerful, can get rid of the evil in a person completely, if said properly. And there were two other weapons mentioned. The Ola was a rod that's used to strike the enemy. The Romach is, of course, it's a stick with a sharp point on it. Keep a midas to never hamis. Once again, we're working on the evil within us, but it also does the same as working on the evil outside of us. I'll hope to come to that in a minute. Keep a midas to never hamis. Our animal soul has all kinds of lusts and desires. We learned about it. The fire desire, the water desire, the dust desire, the wind desire. All these different types of things our animals says. Yesh beis bechinos, and generally you could cut it down in two categories. Aleph is typhus heter. There are things that we lust for that are kosher. Beis typhus iser, and the other is things that are absolutely forbidden. Nimshach me'rad denoga. I'll speak about this in a moment. Each word has so much attached to it. Before I go into that, and I want to give an example of how powerful one can be even down here on earth. You and I, right? You and I, down here on earth, we if we're humble as we should be, we feel as real, very tiny, fragile things, in the hands of the Almighty, etc. And there are all kinds of forces around us. There's all kinds of, God forbid, germs and bacteria and this and that, and all kinds of radio waves and different kinds of waves, etc., that can be harmful, etc., etc. I meant to say like nuclear energy, and there's all kinds of stuff around, etc. And God is watching over us all the time. I've mentioned many times that in storehouses all around the world, including in our country, there are enough, God forbid, nuclear weapons to do. I don't even want to say. Many countries have huge stores of nuclear weapons, and also the capability to shoot them around. Who's keeping us alive? Who's taking care of us? It's only the Almighty. So you and I feel kind of powerless.
And he's still orchestrating it all.
Isn't this page teaching us that we're actually very powerful? So sometimes you need a physical example, and I'll need maybe help from both Reb Ephraim and Rabbi Weissman, maybe to help me with this a little bit. Okay. The sun, right? The sun is how many miles away from the earth? Maybe you two gentlemen can tell me. I don't remember. The scientists give some kind of a figure. Maybe you know what it is. Even a rough. How far is the sun from the earth? You don't have to give me exactly, but
I think I used to know.
Could have asked the meteorologist, right?
I think it's something like 3.8 million.
3.8 million. Okay, miles.
Something like that. Is that possible?
Million, yeah.
I'm not sure. I think something like that. It's very far.
91.5 million.
Hang on, I could Google it. Hang on. How far is the sun from the earth?
91.
I'm sorry.
91 million?
Not 300, 91 million. Right.
91 million. First of all, let's think of the number million. Now we're talking trillions, right? Trillions of dollars are spent by the government and national debt, etc., etc. We have an international debt to the Almighty for keeping us alive despite all this craziness that's going around us. All right, the sun is very far away from us. Can you touch it?
No.
Can you use a rocket ship and get close to it and touch it in some way?
If you go at night.
Anything that goes within a certain vicinity will be burnt up. Exactly. So it's an enormously powerful thing. Did somebody turn the lights on up there? Who did it? How did it get there altogether? Etc. We think we're so powerful and everything. In your room right now, you can turn your light on and off, but the sun had to be created and operate. And the orbits of all the planets, who put them into thing? Did Edison do it? The Mashmallah, who was an anti-Semite, by the way. How about Einstein? They discovered all the stuff about him. They must have put him there too, right? Of course not. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Wow.
So 91 million. So let's work on the word million just for a moment, because most of us, these figures that they throw around today, we cannot relate to them. Probably you've handled $100 and counted on $100 at one point, maybe even 100 singles. Maybe you had the opportunity to count out $1,000. Maybe yes, maybe not. It might have been in 20s, maybe it was in 10s, maybe it was in hundreds, etc., etc. But it's a considerable amount of money. You and I don't handle like $1,000. We don't play around with that too often. So sometimes we need to use it. There's a situation we have to use cash or whatever. We do happen to handle it. But I think you could relate to that. A million. Picture $1,000 bills in your hand. A million is 1,000 of those 1,000. 1,000. That's 1 million. It's very hard to even imagine. You're going to need a pretty big suitcase, right, to hold all that. 1,000. You have 1,000 bills and 1,000 groups of 1,000 bills. That's pretty enormous, okay? That would be 1 million. You know what a mile is. You've driven your car, you've gone 100 miles, and you've gone some thousands of miles by train or by plane, etc., etc. That's a pretty huge distance, too. You've been in the plane, you look down, they tell you how many thousands of feet it is below you, etc. You can see a country. Some of these planes, they have a video you can watch. I don't know if they all have it now. They have a video on the tail that you go over there for a few minutes and you can watch the plane going over the country. I remember we were going to France many, many years ago for a niece's wedding. And I think we were going over Greenland, watching how fast we were going over Greenland. Not it doesn't disappear, zoop, but to be actually flying over a country so far below. So all these things in our minds help us appreciate the enormity of the world, the enormity of the universe. It helps us a little bit because, really, frankly, we deal with our nickels and dimes down here. We deal with our daily life, which doesn't really seem to touch upon any of these incredible things. All right. Now, if you've gone thousands of miles, let's say you went to Europe, or else you went to Israel, but I had the merit to do that too. Pretty long trip, 24 hours in the plane, etc. I don't like it. I don't enjoy flying, etc., etc. It's still pretty phenomenal thing. Now, you're dealing with thousands of miles, right? Maybe another 1,000. Can you picture 91 million miles to the sun? Now, the rays of the sun, do they take a train? Do they take a plane? Do they take a bus to get down here? That light that you're enjoying today, if you have daylight, where you are right now, but we have people sometimes all over the world. If you're enjoying daylight right now, think that the light rays that are illuminating, maybe your window, maybe your home, maybe your yard, those rays started 91 million miles ago. It's mind-boggling. We can't even realize it because we get up every morning and thank God, Modaniel, for God gives us light. We go, oh, the sun is out already. It's every time to daven, time to say Shema, etc., etc. Completely taken for granted. Can you and I control the sun? What would you say? Can we control it? Nothing. Zero. Ridiculous, right?
No.
What if I told you we could?
We can harness it. We can. They try to harness the energy from the sun, but not to control how it.
I'm going to tell you how to control it. You could do it right now. It's kind of cold, and I don't want you to leave this year. Maybe do it at lunchtime. Actually, over here it might be lunchtime by you already. You go out on a nice sunny day, and you stick your hand out over the sidewalk and make a shadow.
Right.
What are you doing? What are you doing? Imagine how what you're doing 91 miles away from the source is affecting that ray. It traveled 91 million miles to get here. Your hand is in the way. When you and I were kids, they would tell you if you make your hand a certain way, it looks like the shadow looks like an animal, looks like a bird, looks like a person. Fun things that we used to do, not thinking of what an incredible thing we're actually doing. You are controlling not the source of the sun, not the sun itself, but you're controlling one of the things the sun can do. You're having an effect upon the sun. It doesn't change the sun. Yes, I realize that. But you're having an effect upon such an incredibly powerful luminary, if you want to call it that, just for now, source of light and heat, down here 91 million miles away. Now, there's a pasuk in the Torah that wants to teach you a lesson from this. It's a magnificent lesson altogether. And I'm teaching it now so that we realize how our prayers are not only praising God, fulfilling a commandment to attach ourselves to God, asking God for all the stuff we need down here, thanking Him for all the stuff He's given us here. We can actually affect the Almighty. We can actually affect our lives by what we do down here. That's what that weaponry story was all about. And if you look up at the sun, don't look without, sunglasses, etc. Okay, I made a shadow down here. I made a dent in you, Mr. Sun, way up there. I didn't make a dent,
Are you trying to give us, Rabbi Schaefer? Are you trying to give us the muscle that basically what we do down here affect what we can affect what goes on above by what we do down here below, or something like that?
Exactly, but here's the pasuk that teaches us that. Hashem tzilcha al yad minecha, verse in the Psalms. God is your shade. Shade, what a funny way to talk about God. Yeah, funny way to talk about God. Hashem is your shade upon your right hand. Sometimes we think of shade as something that shades your right hand, and protects it. No, it says Hashem tzilcha yad minecha. God is your shade. This is teaching us that just as here on Earth, 91 million miles away, that we affect whether the ray of the sun is going to actually make it. Will it make it to the sidewalk, or it's not going to make it? God has designed the world that we can affect his mood. Our mood affects his mood, and our actions affect his actions. That's an enormous power. That's much more powerful than this weaponry that we're learning about, this weaponry, Torah weaponry that you and I have been studying about with the prayers. Hashem Silcha, Ayad Minacha. Hashem is your shade upon your right hand. Just as you can manipulate the sun's rays 91 miles away, coming down here, you can manipulate how the Almighty affects the earth as well. If you believe it, and we do believe it and fulfill it, you see it practice, you see the Almighty do all kinds of amazing things. There's another
Rabbi
verse.
Schaefer?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So does that mean that if we strive to be the proper keli for Hashem's brachos, then basically wouldn't be blocking the life forces from above, but we would be kind of absorbing that. In other words,
Shaping. You're shaping and deciding which ones are going to come down. You're deciding just in taking the example further, you're deciding which rays are going to come down and which ones are going to be blocked.
Yeah.
To look upon it that way. And this is a verse in the Torah that's explained in the Talmud that way. There's another verse that says that we always translate it the simple way. Ki mimcha hakol. Everything comes from you, God. Everything is from you. You are the one that's creating constantly. You're the one that's supplying everything that's going on constantly. Ki mimcha hakol. But the deeper meaning is the opposite. Not from you, God. From you down on earth. From what you are doing, mimcha, from you down, all from you, everything is affected. From you down on earth. With you down here. How cold everything is affected, etc., etc. So that's what we want to point out in this lesson is the power of the prayers when they are recited properly, how they are very effective inside to clean out the evil that's inside. I don't have any evil inside. Oh, yes, somebody calls me on the phone. Can I borrow your salad bowl? All of a sudden, like kids, a kid will have a toy. We're like kids. Kids, there's a toy that a brother or sister wants to play with. It hasn't been used in months. No. But the little brother or little sister remembers that it's there. Can I use your this and that? And they asked, and I said, well, I might need it. I need it. That's a selfish thing in the child. But unfortunately, as the adult gets older, the evil inclination gets smarter and older as well. The Tanya explains that as we get older, we have to get more and more clever and more effective at fighting the evil inclination. Why? If we've been beating up the enemy with these 5 weapons, right, the sword and the rod and the spear, right, and the bow and arrow, and so we didn't get to the shield yet, by the way. We're going to get to the shield. With the shield is protective, right? What's that got to do with weaponry, etc.? Well, you see when we come to the shield, we might make it today too. The Tanya explains, you should know that even people who are non-Hasidic, non-Chabad, non-Hasidic, many non-Hasidic rabbis, great scholars, study the Tanya. One of my teachers was a non-Chabad, I won't say anti-Chabad, it wasn't the Misnagid, but he was for surely non-Chabad and non-Hasidic in every way. And he studied the Tanya, and he mentioned how many rabbis who are not Hasidic rabbis studied the Tanya. Did you know that the author of this Tanya, I don't know if you've heard this, the author of the Tanya was caught studying his own Tanya. The author was studying it. He says, when I wrote it, that the Almighty gave me such divine inspiration that I have to learn it myself. Something to think about. Yes.
So I want to mention something, talking about the Tanya, and I read something from, again, this booklet that Nasi Gross, the band leader Nasi Gross, he prints out this pamphlet called Torah Wellsprings.
Yeah.
Rabbi Biederman, Shlita. So I don't know who this Rabbi Biederman is, but he says that his grandfather was the Lilover Rebbe. Great grandfather was the Lilover Rebbe. I don't know. Anyway, so the point is that he said something that one of the earlier Hasidic Rebbe's, I don't remember who it was. It took me a while to find it in the booklet, but he said that the goal of learning Tanya, or the goal in understanding these concepts about Nefesh HaBahamis and Nefesh Elokis and all that, was that there's a gap between the heart and the brain, between the brain and the heart. And the brain is the seat for the Neshama Nefesh Elokis, and the heart for the Nefesh HaBahamis. And he says that distance between the head and the heart is further than the distance to the Shemayim. But it's our job is to work on closing that gap.
That's a beautiful thought. I haven't heard it before. The throat, by the way, is a constraint. Spiritually, the throat is the constraint. We have to get the mind to penetrate into the heart. And that's very, very, very insightful. And thank you very much for sharing that with us.
So, but that is something that people have talked about regarding the Sacred Tanya. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
The head and the heart, the closing, basically getting. Well, I think it's getting the Nefesh HaBahamis to kind of go along with the better activities.
It is, but the Alter Rebbe says exactly the opposite. He quotes the verse "Ki korov elecha hadava ma'od." The book, as you remember at the beginning of the book, he quotes that verse in the title page. "Ki korov elecha hadava ma'od." It's really very close to you. But with your mouth, and in your heart, so it's really close to you if you make your mind up to work on it and do it. So I wanted to, since you mentioned it, I thought I should mention that too. At any rate, I do want to. That's okay. Thank you very much, and all your comments are welcome. And I want more of you to please make your own comments and personal comments and examples. If you have examples from real life, that helps us all see how real our Torah is. So the Tanya explains that as we get older, the animal soul, the evil inclination, gets stronger. That doesn't make sense. If we're fighting it as we're supposed to, why should it get more strong? It should get weaker. Isn't that so? We should be punching it in the nose as we want to do to the troublemaker Sutton, who gave us so much trouble. Thank God, by the way, my computer's working now. And I can see myself talk. I say, thank you, Hashem. I can see myself talk. I better watch my language. Huh? At any rate, why should it get stronger? So the reason the Alter Rebbe gives is because we continue eating. We need to use our animal soul and our evil inclination to eat, and for other things that are important to us, and procreation also, etc., where it's appropriate, etc. Reproduction where it's appropriate. By using our animal soul, even for the right purpose, it still gets stronger. But you and I get smarter. We get smarter and we get more strategic and find ways to keep it more and more under control. So this is actually an encouraging lesson for us. Don't say to yourself, one shouldn't say to yourself, if I was doing what I was supposed to, how come I really still have this weakness? How come I still have this desire, etc., etc.? I've been working on that. I have improved, etc., etc. So the answer is we get more clever and we get more skillful at fighting it. I want to go a little bit further in the text, if I can. So we're dealing with two categories of desires that we have. One is for kosher things. There's a question of overindulging. It was line 35. Heter, Bahabez, Taivas, Isur. And the second one are things that are absolutely forbidden by the Torah. Hanimshach Meirad Noga. What's Noga? Noga, God creates everything. All the material that we have here could come under three categories. One is holy, like a Sefer Torah, Torah scroll, your tefillin are holy. That they're made out of something physical, but because they have been made and dedicated to a holy purpose, God shows himself. God shows himself on them. Then we have things like pig meat, horse meat, or evil talk, stealing, robbing, killing, all those things. very different activities, very different substances. They all are from evil. The three most completely unclean shells. When something is evil, God has to create everything. He has to create evil too. We say Yotzer Or Choshech, Yotzer Or Ra. God creates light. There's a verse in the prophets that He creates evil as well, for a purpose, for us to defeat it and clean it up. Gives us a job to clean it up. What is evil? An evil thought, an evil action, a non-kosher food, an evil story, evil talk,